What if the girl everyone laughed at turned out to be the sister of a billionaire? She walked into the mall wearing secondhand shoes. No makeup, no designer bag. They mocked her, filmed her, told her she didn't belong. But one man watched silently until he couldn't stay silent anymore, because the girl they humiliated, she was his sister. And when he revealed the truth, the world stopped laughing. It was the kind of afternoon where the mall buzzed with casual chaos, teenagers trailing shopping bags, parents juggling strollers, and music playing too loudly from a nearby pop-up booth. In the middle of it all, Lily sat alone at a small table in the food court, her tray quiet in front of her, a cup of water, a single sandwich wrapped in paper, and a small notebook she scribbled in between bites. She wore a thrifted sweater, soft with age, and canvas sneakers that had long lost their white. Her hair was pulled into a loose braid, strands falling out around her face. No jewelry, no makeup, just a girl who blended into the backdrop of other people's stories. Except, not everyone let her stay invisible. A group of girls at the table beside her, 3 of them all designer bags and blowouts, had noticed. One whispered behind a manicured hand, the other stifled a laugh. Lily heard the words clearly, even though they never addressed her directly. Did she seriously wear that in public? I didn't know people still bought shoes without soles. She looks like a lost librarian. Lily didn't look up. She just turned the page of her notebook and kept writing. But when one of them, Tessa, rose and accidentally bumped into her table, spilling half a cup of iced coffee across Lily's bag, and she finally looked up. Tessa gasped, fake and theatrical. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Lily stared at her for a long moment, then nodded once. "It's okay." Tessa's smirk flickered just for a second, as if surprised by the lack of reaction. She sauntered back to her seat, triumphant in her pettiness. Lily picked up her damp bag, carefully shaking the pages of her notebook, dry, and stood. She didn't cry, she didn't fight back. She just walked head high, eyes steady, heart quietly bruised. She didn't know that someone had watched the entire thing from the second floor. A man in a tailored coat, hidden behind mirrored sunglasses, had seen every cruel word and careless spill. And as Lily disappeared into the crowd, he pulled out his phone. "Sir," the voice answered. "I found her," he said. And the world was about to remember the girl they had all ignored. Lily wandered aimlessly down the polished corridor of the mall, the kind of place that echoed with privilege. The scent of expensive perfume floated from every corner, and glass storefronts gleamed like polished fortresses. She paused outside one of them, a boutique called Eden and Lark, known for runway pieces and salespeople who measured people with their eyes before words. Inside the window, a dress caught her attention. Simple but elegant, soft lavender silk with hand-stitched beading. The kind her mother used to say made a woman look like poetry in motion. Lily stepped in almost hesitantly, the bell above the door chiming like a warning. The boutique was quiet, clinical. A woman behind the counter raised an eyebrow the moment Lily entered. Her eyes swept Lily's outfit, frayed bag, faded jeans, worn sneakers, and dismissed her without a word. Lily smiled politely. "Hi, I was just wondering if I could try on. Do you have a card on file with us?" The woman cut in her voice, smooth and cold. "No," Lily replied, still kind. "I just saw the dress in the window and thought, we only allow fittings for verified clients," the woman said. "You can check our clearance rack near the back." Lily swallowed hard. "I wasn't asking for a discount." From across the boutique, a familiar voice called out, "Oh my God!" Her again. Tessa emerged from a fitting room, phone in hand, her 2 friends trailing behind. She walked past Lily with exaggerated care, as if she might catch poverty like a flu. "Didn't we teach you enough downstairs?" "Scarf girl?" Lily tried to respond, but her throat tightened. Tessa turned to the saleswoman. "She followed me in. Probably wants to copy what I wear." The employee laughed too easily. "You'd be surprised how often that happens." Lily stood there shrinking under the weight of it. Not the dress, not the price tags, but the way no one in the room saw her as human. Just something to step around. She turned to leave. No explosion, no tears. Just quiet, controlled retreat. Behind her, Tessa lifted her phone and snapped a photo of Lily walking out, adding a caption meant only for private laughter. "Mall rats still exist." Cute, but she didn't know someone else had seen that too. The same man from the second floor, still watching, still silent. And this time, he wasn't just an observer. He was already planning what would happen next. The afternoon sun slanted through the glass dome of the mall, casting long golden streaks across the tiled floor. Lily sat on a wooden bench just outside the boutique, clutching her slightly damp bag, eyes fixed on nothing in particular. The world moved around her shopping bag, swinging heels, clicking laughter, echoing off marble. But she sat still, like a quiet pause in a place built for noise. She didn't cry. She hadn't cried in years. Not when she lost her foster home at 15. Not when her favorite bookstore shut down. Not when strangers decided she was less than them because she didn't wear a name-brand coat. But today something inside her felt tired. Just tired of pretending their words didn't touch her. "Excuse me?" a voice said gently. Lily looked up to see an older man in a navy suit, silver hair slicked back, a kindness in his eyes that didn't match the sharpness of his tailored clothes. He held a coffee in one hand and a paper bag in the other. "May I?" he asked, motioning to the empty seat beside her. She nodded. He sat slowly unwrapping a sandwich as if he had all the time in the world. I saw what happened back there. Lily looked away. "It's fine. No, it's not," he replied, not unkindly. "But I admire how you handled it." She glanced at him, unsure how to respond. "You remind me of someone I once knew." He continued strong in quiet ways. Didn't need to scream to be powerful. Lily gave a small smile. "I'm not powerful. You think that because they told you so," he said. But they were wrong. She looked at him, then really looked and noticed something strange. He wasn't just being kind, he was studying her. Not the way people stare, but the way someone looks when they're trying to remember. "I'm sorry," she said cautiously. "Do I know you?" The man smiled. "Not yet." Lily tilted her head. "Then why are you being so nice to me?" He leaned back and sipped his coffee. "Because someday soon, your life is going to change. And when it does, I hope you remember how you made others feel, especially the ones who didn't deserve your kindness." She blinked, unsure if he was being poetic or prophetic. The man stood, brushing crumbs from his lap. "Take care of yourself, Miss Lily." Her breath caught. "I never told you my name." He simply smiled and walked away, disappearing into the sea of shoppers. She sat frozen, heart beating faster now. Something about him, the way he looked at her, the warmth in his voice. But she didn't know that just around the corner. That same man was dialing a number, one he hadn't called in years. "It's me," he said into the phone. "I saw her. She's alive." And on the other end of the line, a man who hadn't spoken in nearly a minute whispered back, "Lily." The phone call echoed through a penthouse office high above the city, where silence often weighed more than words. Alexander Kane stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, phone pressed tightly to his ear, staring out at the skyline he built. Billionaire, tech, mogul, ruthless negotiator. But right now, his voice was just a whisper. "Say it again." The voice on the other end, Gerald, his most trusted advisor, repeated slower. This time, "She's alive. Alex, she's here." I saw her with my own eyes. She was sitting alone in the mall, red braid, quiet eyes. Same face, she's older now, but it's her. Alexander's hand trembled slightly. He turned away from the glass, pacing the room like the floor might give out beneath him. Where exactly? Willowdale Mall. Just this afternoon, Alexander swallowed hard. For a man who had negotiated billion-dollar deals without blinking, it was the first time in years he felt small. "Did she see you?" Gerald hesitated. "We spoke. She doesn't remember me. I didn't tell her who I was. I thought that should come from you." Alex gripped the back of a leather chair, memories crashing through him like thunder. Lily at age 5 was chasing butterflies in their parents' backyard. Lily was crying at the hospital the night of the accident. Lily was sleeping on the couch when the social workers came. And then she was gone. The foster system scattered her. And by the time he'd fought his way to the top, she had vanished. He had searched for years, names, records, dead ends. And now, "She's okay?" he asked, voice rough. "She's safe. She's working." Gerald replied, quiet life, humble. But there was something in her eyes. "Alex, she hasn't been treated kindly." A silence fell. Alex closed his eyes. "I want her found, quietly. I don't want the press. No noise." Gerald's voice softened. "She doesn't know who she is, does she?" "No," Alex whispered. "She only knows who the world told her to be." He opened a drawer and pulled out a small, worn photograph. 2 children, one smiling. The other, Lily holding a daisy, squinting at the sun. He had never stopped looking, and now he wasn't just going to find her. He was going to bring her home. Rain tapped against the windows of Lily's small apartment, like a soft reminder that the world outside never really paused. She sat at her kitchen table, legs curled beneath her, sorting through the same weekly bills she always did. Rent, electricity, and the overdue notice for the community college course she desperately wanted to take. Again, her life was simple, predictable, quiet, and lonely, in a way she had gotten used to. Not the loud kind, but the kind that hums in the silences between moments across the city. However, nothing was quiet. Inside Alexander Kane's private residence, a fortress of glass and steel, a room full of trusted investigators worked through a sea of files. Names, records, addresses. Years of dead ends were being rechecked with urgency now that they had a confirmed sighting, facial recognition. Data, mall security footage, school archives from a decade ago. They moved with silent precision because when the richest man in the state says, "Find her, you don't waste time." And above it all, Alex stood watching, eyes sharper than ever. He hadn't slept. He couldn't not until he knew everything. What kind of life did she live, who hurt her, what she'd lost? One screen blinked a match, a scanned ID from a bookstore, payroll record, Lily Grace Bennett. One of the agents said, age 24, works part-time at Brightleaf. Books lives alone. No criminal record, no known family. Alex flinched at that last part, no known family. He stepped forward, staring at the image on the screen, her employee badge photo. The same eyes, softer now, sadder. "Does she know?" he asked quietly. "No," Gerald said. She believed she was separated from her brother permanently after the crash. The foster home she was placed in moved 3 times in 3 years. They told her no one came for her. Alex's jaw clenched. "But I did." "We know," Gerald said. "But by the time you got out of the hospital, she was already gone. No forwarding address. The system failed her." Alex stared at the screen a moment longer, then turned away. "Prepare the car," he said. "Tomorrow morning, I want to see her myself. Should I let her know you're coming?" "No," he said, eyes cold with purpose. "Let's see how the world treats her when it doesn't know who she really is." And as night fell, the man the world called ruthless billionaire was really just a brother, ready to bring his little sister home. The next morning, the mall sparkled with its usual polished indifference. Soft jazz played from hidden speakers, store windows glistened with new arrivals, and salespeople wore smiles rehearsed to perfection. Lily walked in, holding a small box wrapped in brown paper. Inside was a journal she'd saved up to buy as a birthday gift for her coworker at the bookstore. It wasn't expensive, but it was thoughtful. She walked with quiet purpose, hugging the package to her chest, unaware that just a few steps behind someone was following her, not with menace, but with meaning. Alexander Kane, dressed in a charcoal hoodie and jeans, walked through the mall like a ghost. No security, no cameras, just a man with a mission. He kept his distance, watching her pause at a storefront to admire a display of books and flowers. She looked so normal, so unnoticed, the way the world had trained her to be, until they found her again. Tessa. With her 2 usual shadows in tow, she was perched on a bench near the boutique entrance, scrolling through her phone with a grin that didn't reach her eyes. She looked up just as Lily passed and let out a snort. "Oh, wow, look who's back." Lily froze but didn't speak. "What's in the box?" one of the girls asked, smirking. "Another clearance rack accessory." Lily opened her mouth to say something, maybe to defend herself, but Tessa stepped closer. Phone raised. "Smile," she said sweetly, for my "what not to wear at the mall" post. The flash clicked. Alexander saw everything, his fingers curled into fists. But it wasn't until Tessa turned to her friends and whispered loud enough for Lily to hear, "Some people don't belong anywhere. They just haunt places like ghosts," that he stepped forward. "That's enough." His voice cut through the noise like a blade. Tessa turned, annoyed. "Excuse me." Alex stood tall, eyes locked on her, still wearing the hoodie, still anonymous but carrying a force none of them understood. "Apologize to her." Tessa laughed. "And who do you think you are? Her dad?" Alex didn't move, just someone who's had enough of people like you. Look, Tessa said, gesturing toward Lily. If you want to play hero for them all, Gremlin, that's your choice, but... He pulled off his hood. The reaction was instant. The girls froze. One dropped her phone. A nearby employee gasped. Customers turned, whispering, eyes widening. Tessa blinked suddenly, pale. Wait, aren't you? Yes, Alex said, gaze unwavering. And she's my sister. Lily's eyes darted between them, her breath catching. What did you just say? Alex turned to her, voice soft. Now, Lily, it's me. I'm Alex. She shook her head. No, that's not possible, Alex. I survived. He said, his voice thick with emotion. And I've been looking for you every day since silence fell again, heavy and thick. And in the middle of it, Lily whispered, You found me. Alex nodded. I promised I would. Tears filled her eyes, but before she could speak, he stepped closer. Looked back at the stunned girls still frozen in shock. You just mocked the only person in this mall who actually matters to me. Tessa stammered. I didn't know. Exactly, he said, voice sharp. You never bothered to look. And in that moment, the girl who had been laughed at for her clothes, her silence, her softness, became the most unforgettable person in the entire building. The boutique was quiet now. The lights still glowed, the glass still shimmered, but the air had shifted. You could feel it. A storm had just passed and left truth in its wake. Lily stood frozen, the small brown package still clutched in her hands. Her mind spun. The man in front of her wasn't a stranger anymore. He was Alex, her brother, her protector, her childhood hero who once sang her to sleep and taught her how to ride a bike. The brother she thought had died in that crash. Tears welled in her eyes, but disbelief fought to hold them back. I don't understand. How? Why didn't anyone tell me you were alive? Alex stepped closer, his voice gentle but breaking. They told me you were placed in a permanent home, that you were adopted. I searched for years, but the trail went cold. I never stopped Lily. Not for a single day. She blinked hard, trying to process it. You're him, the billionaire? The one they talk about on the news? I saw your name on the buildings. And none of that mattered. He said, if I couldn't find you... Behind them, the boutique staff stood pale, unsure if they should vanish or apologize. Tessa remained by the entrance, still stunned, her lips parted in disbelief. Her friends had already backed away, pretending not to know her. One brave employee, the manager, finally approached Mr. Kane. We didn't know. We had no idea who she was. That's the problem, Alex said quietly. You needed to know who she was, to treat her like a human being. He turned to the store manager. Clear the boutique. All of it. I don't want anyone else inside except my sister. Of course, sir. In seconds, the room emptied except for Alex and Lily. She looked at him, still fragile in the silence. Why did you step in? Why not wait until later? He smiled gently. Because when I saw you standing there, taking it again, I realized something. I didn't just need to find you. I needed to protect you. And maybe remind the world who they're really underestimating. She let the tears fall. Now, quietly, freely. He stepped forward, wrapping his arms around her like he had done when she was small. And for the first time in years, Lily didn't feel small at all. In that embrace, a million questions went unanswered, but none of them mattered yet. Because in that moment, they weren't a billionaire and a forgotten girl. They were a brother and a sister. Finally whole again. It was supposed to stay private. Just a moment between two siblings who had been torn apart by tragedy and time. But nothing in Alexander Kane's world stayed quiet for long. Not when the public could smell a story. By nightfall, the headlines had spread like wildfire. Billionaire Alexander Kane reunites with long lost. Sister in shocking mall, confrontation, humiliated by bullies. She turned out to be a Kane, the girl with the red braid, a billionaire's sister, found in silence. Photos of Lily's stunned expression. Alex pulling off his hood, the frozen faces of the boutique staff. All of it splashed across every news site, every feed. Hashtags trended, talk shows speculated. Some praised the moment as poetic justice. Others dug through Lily's past like it was treasure. They didn't care that she never asked for the spotlight. They only wanted the story. Lily sat in the back seat of Alex's town car, fingers curled tightly in her lap. The city passed outside the tinted windows like a blur of lights and noise. She wore the same jeans from earlier and the same soft sweater, but she no longer felt like the same girl. "I didn't want this," she whispered. "I didn't ask for any of this." Alex sat beside her, his expression gentle. "I know, and I'm sorry I should have shielded you better. You saved me," she said, "but now the whole world is watching me trip over my shoelaces." He chuckled softly. "Then let them watch. Let them see a girl who made it through life without fame or money or help and still showed up with kindness." She looked at him, unsure whether to cry or laugh. Back at his estate, a quiet, sprawling place tucked in the hills. She stepped into a room prepared for her. It wasn't gaudy, it was warm, earth tones, soft sheets, and a bookshelf are already half filled. On the desk sat a frame, inside it, the only photo she had from her childhood. Her and Alex at the zoo, ice cream melting down their arms. "I kept it," he said, watching her from the doorway. "I thought I lost mine," she murmured. "You didn't," he replied. "You just forgot. You still had someone holding on." Over the next few days, the boutique fired its entire staff. Tessa tried to apologize online, of course, but her followers turned quickly. Comments flooded her page. "You mocked a billionaire's sister. Yikes, looks like your style wasn't kindness." She handled it with grace. You handled it with selfies. Meanwhile, Lily chose to return to work at the bookstore. The manager was stunned. "Are you sure you don't have to?" "I know," Lily smiled. "That's exactly why I want to." Because she hadn't changed. She had just been seen. Weeks passed. The noise began to quiet. The hashtags faded. The headlines moved on. But Lily didn't. She wasn't interested in being a celebrity sister or a viral sensation. She spent her mornings at the bookstore, sorting paperbacks, sipping tea, talking softly to customers who still didn't know who she was, and she liked it that way. But something inside her had shifted, something deep and firm. A desire not to escape the past, but to rewrite it for someone else. One crisp morning, Alex found her in the sunroom of the estate, sketching ideas in a notebook. "You're up early," he said, setting down 2 mugs of coffee. She smiled. "Couldn't sleep. I've been thinking." "Dangerous," he teased. She flipped the notebook around and pushed it toward him. On the page was a drawing part. Boutique part, community center. The name was scrawled across the top, Lily Grace. He stared at it, then looked up. "What is this?" "A place for girls like me," she said. "For the ones who don't have perfect clothes or perfect families or anyone to tell them they're worth something. A shop, yes, but also a program. We give internships, confidence workshops. We offer real jobs to women coming out of shelters or foster care." Alex leaned back, eyes softening. "That's incredible. I want to buy the boutique," she said. His brow lifted. "The one." She nodded. "The exact one where they laughed at me, where I was told I didn't belong. I want to rebuild it and make it the opposite of what it was. Not a place that judges, a place that welcomes." He looked at her like he was seeing her all over again. "You don't want revenge." "No," she said, calm and clear. "I want redemption. And not just for me." Later that month, the boutique reopened. The windows were the same, the address hadn't changed. But the name above the door now read, Lily Grace in handwritten gold. Inside, instead of icy silence and perfume, there was warmth, laughter, music, shelves stocked with clothes in all sizes and prices. Customers were greeted with tea and compliments, not judgment. And the first 2 employees, Marta, once a single mother who rode the bus with Lily every morning, and Renee, a former foster teen with a shy smile and quick wit. When asked why she hired them, Lily simply said, "They reminded me of someone I used to know, because it wasn't just about what had been taken from her. It was about what she could now give to others." The mall was different now, not because the tiles were cleaner or the stores more expensive, but because somewhere inside Grace had taken root. Lily walked through it slowly, her pace unhurried, her presence calm. She wore a simple navy dress and the same worn sneakers she always loved, now paired with quiet confidence that didn't need validation. Her hair was still in a braid, but it flowed freely down her back, no longer. A way to hide, people turned when they saw her now. Some recognized her from the articles, some only remembered the girl who was once mocked and walked away in silence, and a few, the ones who truly mattered, just smiled and nodded, as if to say, "We see you now." Outside, Lily Grace the boutique shimmered with soft light. A little girl stood near the entrance holding her mother's hand, eyes wide with curiosity. She wore hand-me-downs and nervousness like a second skin. Lily stepped forward. "Hi there," she said gently. "You thinking of coming in?" The girl shrugged. "I don't think I belong here. It's too fancy." Lily crouched to her level and smiled. "You belong anywhere. You bring kindness. That's all the fancy we need." The girl beamed and walked inside the bell above the door, ringing like a welcome song. Across the atrium, Tessa passed by. She wore sunglasses even indoors. Now head lowered, her once loyal followers had moved on. The brand stopped calling. She glanced up and locked eyes with Lily for the briefest second. No words passed between them, and Lily didn't stop her. Because this story wasn't about revenge. It was about remembering who you are when no one else does. She stepped back into the boutique and waved at Marta, who was helping a woman pick out her first interview outfit. Renee rang up a sale, laughing with a customer like they'd been friends forever. This place had become something more than a store. It was a second chance wrapped in fabric and warmth. As the sun poured in through the windows, Lily looked up at the sign once more, her name and the word grace beside it. Not because she had been lucky, but because she had chosen to forgive a world that forgot her, and in doing so became unforgettable. Because once they laughed at the girl who had nothing, now they remembered the woman who gave everything. They judged her by her clothes. They whispered behind her back. They pointed at her silence and mistook it for weakness. But she didn't rise to shame them. She rose to change everything. She didn't just open a store. She opened a door for every girl who's ever been told she wasn't enough. And when the same people who mocked her walked past, she didn't seek revenge. She smiled because true power doesn't shout. It welcomes, and in the end, the girl they tried to forget became the story the world will never stop telling.